So dear colleagues, today I'm very pleased to welcome Andreas. So Andreas, he's a leader and senior manager at IBM. He's the senior manager for AI, for AIOps. And he has, I would say, he had lived in Europe, Asia, and also America. I mean, he was in Barcelona, Prague, and also in Shanghai. So he visited different places. Before he joined IBM, he was in Microsoft. So he has really a rich experience in AI. And today he's going to talk about how we're going to post the AI classroom with the tools and strategies. We are really very happy, Andreas, to have you with us today. So the floor will be yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Can you all hear me well?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you very well.
Yes, we can.
So then let me go into sharing mode. So as I said, thank you very much for the nice words and the nice introduction. And it's also a pleasure for me to be here today to speak to you. The goal of today's session is to really look into the current trends when it comes to AI tools, like what are the tools which are currently used when it comes to academic research and AI especially. And I want to give you a high-level overview about current trends and the current tools in the market where I see and where I think they are very powerful. Maybe you already know some of the tools, maybe you don't know all of the tools. So I'm also very interested to learn from you and see your perspective. Maybe you also have some experience with some of the tools I'm presenting to you today. And also we will have then later on a hands-on session where I will introduce one of the tools. We will look into NotebookLM, which is from Google. And in my personal view, it is at the moment one of the most powerful tools. I work with the tool now for around 2-3 months. It was just released recently, but I think it's very powerful. And I prepared a lot of different use cases, and I would like to introduce today to you different use cases and show to you what you can do with it when it comes to academic work, right? In this session, I will not focus on ChatGPT, DeepL, Grammarly, like all of these basic tools, I would call it, because I think most of you or everybody here is working with those kind of tools. So I'm really focusing on the more advanced tools, and I think it will get clearer when I show you the agenda in a bit. So Saad, you already introduced me nicely, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about myself, but just quickly 2-3 sentences. As you rightly said, I'm working at the moment at IBM. I'm leading a department in AIOps, focusing on the EMEA market. And so AIOps, for the people who don't know, it's basically how can you leverage and how can you apply artificial intelligence for IT operations, right? That's basically what we do there. So it's a very broad field, a very interesting field from my perspective. And besides my time at IBM, my work at IBM, I'm also a lecturer at several universities and AI programs, like business programs in AI. And that's something I really enjoy, right? Because it gives me the opportunity and the freedom to speak, for example, today with you, and also hopefully have a kind of a dialogue to you and get in an exchange with you. And it also gives me a lot of possibilities to dive deeper into topics where I'm interested in, because I mean, we all know if you work in a big corporate like at IBM, it's a very busy world, and sometimes it's not always possible to make a deep dive into certain topics. But I think if you work on a more academic field, it's definitely more easy to dive deeper into certain aspects, like we today dive into AI tooling for education. And besides that, I'm also working, if I have time, besides my work at IBM and being a lecturer and of course having a family, I'm also advising startups, and I'm mentioning this here because at the beginning of the year, I worked with a very small startup, which is still not public yet, but they were also working in the education field, and they had built in 2 very nice AI use cases. They are building basically a platform. I cannot disclose too much here, but looks very interesting, and maybe in the future this is also something which comes around to you. And as I said, it's something I really enjoy also to learn about the newest trends and the newest business models. Having said that, I would like to introduce you now to our agenda to make sure that everybody has an understanding what we are doing today. And I already mentioned a few topics I will present today, but to have it here now precisely. So at the beginning, I will have a high-level dive into the current state of AI, just to make sure that we are really all on the same level and have the same understanding where we are coming from. After that, I will then introduce AI tools. I will give an overview. And I clustered this overview now into 4 different clusters, so to say, in 4 different levels where I see at the moment the trends happening when it comes to the AI tooling in education. And you see it if we start with the 2.1, tools for literature research, 2.2, tools for text comprehension, 2.3, tools for text production, and then basically 2.4, I called it here virtual research assistants. And they are basically a combination of all of these tools together, right? So they are like a Swiss Army knife to some extent, which include all of the functionalities and capabilities of these 3 tool families here, okay? And then one of those virtual research assistants I will introduce you today is NotebookLM. And this is then where we also have the deep dive. From my perspective, as I already said, it's the most powerful tool at the moment in the market. And therefore, I think it makes a lot of sense to work with this tool and learn about different use cases and unfold the full power of it. And then at the end, a short conclusion. And of course, I'm always happy to answer questions, not only at the end. Feel free to ask questions along the talk, because I think if we make this a little bit more interactive and you share maybe also your experiences, maybe you already have or you have questions, please feel free to jump in, write it in the chat. I'm happy to stop. And from my experience, if you keep this interactive, it's more fun for everybody. So please don't hesitate and ask me all the questions you have. Okay. So then let's quickly start with a high-level overview where we are standing at the moment. And I think we are standing at a very interesting time in history, because if we look back in history, we have this general purpose technologies, which we saw happening over the last maybe 200-300 centuries, started in the 18th century with mechanization, steam engines, the first industrial revolution. Then we had like electrification, invention of light, which was very beneficial for creating bigger cities. The computerization, of course, in the 1970s. In the middle, you can see it, which also helped a lot to be more productive, to be more efficient for the people on the planet. And then you have, of course, internetization in the 90s, where really a lot of other big trends came from, like mobile applications, like the cloud, and a lot of efficiency, a lot of productivity for all different sectors. And at the moment, we are witnessing another major shift, and this is like really artificial intelligence. I put here the year 2010, but basically maybe you could also put here the year 2022, when ChatGPT-3 was released by OpenAI, because this really gave humans the first time the possibility, and every human the first time the possibility to have the power of AI in your fingertips, right? It really democratized AI, because even my grandmother now can use ChatGPT and she can leverage AI and the power of AI. And before that, maybe it was only for data scientists, for AI engineers, or for people from other fields, right? So what I want to say here is it's a major shift happening at the moment. And it's not a question of it's a hype or when it is gone, it will change everything. And it will definitely change also our economy. And it will also change a lot of other fields, other industries, maybe all fields and all industries. And in that regard, I also like what Andreas Horn said. He's like a very famous, for the people who don't know him, he's a very famous researcher in AI. He's one of the pioneers in AI. You can say that. He was also a former professor at Stanford University. He's the founder of Coursera, for example, as well. And he said in a very famous speech in 2017 at Stanford University, just as electricity transformed almost everything 100 years ago, today I actually have a hard time thinking of an industry that I don't think AI will transform in the next several years. And he said this 2017. ChatGPT was released 2022. So basically, he already saw coming what is happening at the moment. And if we look now into the current numbers, and I found a very interesting study recently by a job portal. The job portal is called Indeed, like you can see here at the bottom. And they made like an analysis of different fields and the potential of Gen AI disrupting those fields. And you see they made like a difference between a replacement is likely and a replacement is possible. You can see this here at the top. And I mean, I just want to highlight here, if those numbers are really hitting, or if they are really coming in the future, nobody knows. But I think what you can see here very nicely is that there is no field and no industry really which will not see a likely or a possible impact, right? So it's really happening at the moment. And also, especially for us, when we are working at universities, it doesn't matter which field we are studying, right? You see even mathematics here at the top. You see also stuff like banking, financial services, but also software development, education and training. So this is also something very interesting for us. So you see it has an impact, right? And it is like what I said, it's not about hype, and it's not about, this will go away. It is there, right? And I think the main approach for us here really is to be aware of that change and to be really aware of that this is the reality and we need to embrace it, okay? And in that regard, I also found this graph very, very interesting, because this also relates to job postings, right? So it also looked into the Gen AI exposure for certain jobs which were posted on the internet. And you see something very interesting. Of course, on the right side, again, mathematics, software development, HR, customer service. So there is a very high disruptive potential in all of these fields. On the other hand, interesting to see that beauty and wellness and therapy, so where you work closely with other humans, has zero or nearly no disruptive potential, right? But I mean, all of us, we are somewhere here in this field here at the bottom, or maybe we are here in this field, education, and you see there is some disruptive potential. So we really need to be aware that there is something very big happening. And I think most of you are already leveraging AI, and you probably already have a lot of huge discussions also at the university and the faculties about which tools are legal, which tools should be illegal. Is it possible to write papers with ChatGPT or other large language models, etc.? And that's exactly my point I want to make here and to finalize then this part of my introduction. And this is happening also in research, for example, at universities. And I found this post by Jeremy Nguyen very, very interesting. I don't know if he actually did the research, but he posted about it, and this went viral a few months ago. So you probably have seen it on X or LinkedIn or these other social media platforms. And basically what he did, he analyzed medical studies which are published on PubMed. PubMed is like the portal where most of the medical studies are basically published, so you can access it on the internet. And he looked into the usage of the word delve. because to delve into something is a word which is heavily overused by ChatGPT, and it's a word which is not very common and often used by normal speakers like me or by native speakers. It's a very uncommon word, so to say, especially in academic publications. And what he found out, and you see here this massive spike when ChatGPT was released, somewhere here, end of 2022, and this is like a 5x, right? So this went 5x up, and then suddenly everybody released papers with the word delve. So a huge correlation between papers using the word delve and the year and the release date of ChatGPT. So I think we can assume that most of the people who are publishing here, who are falling into this bar here, probably used ChatGPT to publish their material. So very interesting. And I don't ask this question, but if I would ask this question, I think everybody of you maybe also used it in the academic environment. I don't want to have this discussion today if it makes sense or if it should be allowed or forbidden. I know this is a very political topic, but what I want to do today is to introduce you to even more powerful tools than ChatGPT. And these are not only tools to produce text, those are other tools which can help you, right? So what I wanted to achieve with this introduction is to show you that there is like a big shift going on at the moment. And this big shift is mainly coming from ChatGPT and large language models. And we see this also happening in academic and research and in the education sector. But there are more powerful tools than ChatGPT. And this is now what we look into the next section. We will have now the overview when it comes to other AI tools. And as I said, I clustered the overview into 4 areas where I see at the moment the most disruption happening. So let's have a look. Literature research. Literature research is when you are an academic writer, when you do in general academic research, one of the fields which definitely costs the most of your time, right? Because this is really very often, if you want to write about a topic where you're not that familiar with, you spend hours, days and days to really make the groundwork, to really try to walk into one direction and find something interesting and find sources you would like to use for your publication, you would like to use, etc. Right? And these tools are really really helpful. So for example, there are a lot of more tools, and I picked just certain tools where I think they are worth to have a look. All the tools I'm presenting to you, or most of the tools, I also worked with them. If I did not work with them, I got them highly recommended by colleagues at university, etc. Right? So, for example, 𝗲𝗄𝘆 is the first tool I'm introducing. This is a clustering algorithm to group similar abstracts. So, for example, you find one abstract, you find one paper you really like, and you want to find other papers which probably use the same school, which use the same theory, which use similar sources. And you want to have a very fast overview, you can use this tool, okay? You don't need to look into the literature and then make some deep dive there. You just use this tool and this goes very fast. You just enter the name of the paper and then you find like a graph with a lot of other papers which are quite similar around. The next one is Perplexity AI. I hope this tool is familiar with everybody here because it's very powerful. And this is one of the tools, basically, I use this every day for all kinds of searches on the internet. It's basically like a combination of Google and ChatGPT. And you get answers, so you can ask questions. You get answers in form of natural language, in form of what you would get out, for example, from ChatGPT. But the beauty of this tool is also that you get sources. You get directly sources to for example, other internet links where you then click on and can do further research. And you get also, of course, up-to-date information. It's not like a large language model like ChatGPT, where when you ask about current events, like, for example, who won today the election in the United States, ChatGPT would not be able to answer this question. Perplexity would be able to answer this question, right? Because it's leveraging a large language model, plus it feeds in up-to-date information, plus you get a citation and quotation also in addition. And it's very powerful. And if you work, for example, in a more academic setting, you can then ask, for example, for research papers, and Perplexity will then deliver you sources and information with direct links to research papers. So very powerful. If you don't know it, I can highly recommend it. And nowadays, for example, I don't use Google anymore. Maybe I use Google to search a restaurant to go to eat, or maybe I search it to find a link to watch a football game or something. For just finding one link in the internet, I maybe use it, but otherwise Perplexity is really my go-to source, so highly recommended. And then we have Consensus. Consensus, they describe themselves as Google Scholar meets ChatGPT, and I think this is really, they are hitting the nail with this description. So what you can do here is you can ask full questions, like you could also ask with a prompt in ChatGPT, for example, but they will not give you a generic answer like in ChatGPT. They will give you an answer based on a combination of different research papers. Very useful. So for example, if you have a hypothesis or you have a specific research question where you want to find first literature to have a look, what is the current state of the art when it comes to research, etc. This is a perfect tool, right, to really have a kickstart and get some good sources and some good information in. We have then on the right side, Elicit. This is a tool, I have to say, I did not use often. I just tried it out, but I got it recommended by some colleagues, and I know that some colleagues are using it. So I wanted to highlight here, and it's pretty much similar. It's a combination of Perplexity and Consensus. And I think also most of those tools, they have some similarities, right? And I think it's worth to really have a look in all of those tools. But if I would recommend just to pick one, Perplexity is the go-to source, and it's very powerful. You see at the bottom also there are even more tools, connected papers, lit maps, open knowledge maps. Those tools, for example, are very similar to this clustering algorithm approach. There are other tools, RDiscovery, Research Rabbit. I don't know those tools. I just had a brief look and know that, or found out that they are also for literature research. There are also even more tools than this, and I will show you after I present the high-level tools, and also a nice hack how to find more of the tools and maybe find even a better tool fitting for your use case. So this is the literature research. We come now to the overview for text comprehension, right? So another very big part of, if you work in academics, you work a lot with these research papers, you work a lot with maybe very complex papers, especially if you work in a technical environment, if you work in computer science or in science in general, with maybe complex formulas, with a lot of jargon, with a lot of words, and maybe some parts of a paper which are very hard to understand. And all of the tools you see here, they are very helpful in helping you to dive deeper into a text and get a better understanding of a text. So on the left side, you see Chat PDF. Basically, the name is already telling what is inside. So you can upload your PDF files, so in a paper format, and then you can start asking questions. You can summarize the content. You can extract key information. And basically, this is also something now which you can do nowadays with large language models like Gemini or ChatGPT, of course. But what these tools do in addition, they also give you some form of a structure and some form of functionalities, right? So they propose you questions you can ask. They propose you some forms of a potential agenda they can draft for you. So very useful if you are on a green field and you don't know really where to start with a paper, and you have some problems to understand certain parts, or it comes even from another field where you're not focusing on too much when it comes to your research. We have then Explain Paper. Explain Paper, I use this. I really like it. So from the site you see here. This would be also my recommendation if you ask me for one tool when it comes to text comprehension. It has a very similar approach than 𝗏𝗄𝘆, but from my view, a much better user interface, better to understand. And you can also upload several papers at the same time. And then there is also this functionality where you have then, if there are like sections in a paper or in a presentation or in some academic research, which are confusing for you or you don't understand, or you want to have it written in a more clear and concise language, you have the possibility to rewrite this then, and this is very helpful and very powerful. And then you have here on the right side, 𝗞𝗲𝘆, and you have here also PaperBrain. They are both very similar to explain paper, and exactly the same. You upload a PDF file, you can analyze the document, and then you can rewrite the document, you can filter it for keywords, etc. Right? So really, really powerful tools. And as I said, if I should recommend here one, it would be for me explain paper, very, very powerful and also very nice user interface. Coming to the next section, tools for text production. I already said it at the beginning, right? So there are a lot of discussions at the moment if you should use those tools to create your academic research, your presentations, and so on. I don't want to start the discussion in that direction because it's, as I said, quite political. But what I want to show you, I'm a big fan of these tools, right? And I'm using them also for my day-to-day work, but also, for example, I'm posting a lot on LinkedIn, on social media. So I use those kind of tools as well because I think really they are very helpful in a lot of fields if you know how to leverage them. And for the text production in the field of academy, there is one tool I highly recommend, and I know also they have a lot of partnerships now with big universities. It is called 𝗏𝗏𝘆, right? It's the tool here. And this is the beauty of this tool is really that this focuses on the generation of text and the production of text for universities, right? So for example, this means that if you write something, they include already text citations in the right style, which you can use later then to publish it. So you don't need to do this kind of stuff. It helps you also with the bookmarks, and it has a very nice AI autocomplete feature. And as I said, it focuses on academic writing. So also the wording which is used here is quite good and is quite helpful. So also here, my recommendation, looking at this slide and for the text production, it would be 𝗏𝗏𝘆. Like I think it's a great tool. Besides that, you see STORM. STORM is an open source framework from Stanford University. STORM stands for Synthesis of Topic Outlines Through Retrieval and Multi-Perspective Question Asking. Very complex name, a little bit confusing probably the name, but what it basically does is it helps you to generate Wikipedia-style articles. So for example, you work in a field where you have a lot of buzzwords, where you have a lot of phrases, a lot of complex phrases, a lot of jargon, and you want to create, for example, an FAQ where you explain all of this, get explained all of these phrases and all of this jargon. So this tool helps you to create it in a Wikipedia style format. It's very useful. It's very well written. And also there are citations in the text. So it's not just randomly generating text, like, for example, 𝗏𝗏𝘆. It really gives you also the citations, and it's very structured, right? So you have a very great outline, and that could also be a very good baseline if you want to prepare a PowerPoint presentation, or if you want to prepare a paper, or if you want to prepare a blog article, or if you just want to create something. It really helps you to structure it and explain it in a very nice and understandable language. And yeah, so also a recommendation from my side. And then you have here Copy AI and then 𝗏𝗧, but these are just two tools I used for some time, or I had a look into them. Basically, this is more for copywriting. This is basically for if you want to create blog posts, more like social media content. I know that a lot of people who work at universities are also very very active when it comes to writing blogs, when it comes to posting on LinkedIn, for example, or on Medium. So that could be then interesting to use that kind of tools. But also have to say, you see it at the bottom, there are much more tools: Alpha, Copy Cockpit, Mindverse, NeuroFlash, WriteSonic. Most of the tools I had a look into. Even if you search on the internet, you will probably find 20 more tools when it comes to text production. So there are plenty of tools, and I think it also depends a little bit what is your use case and for what do you want to use it, and what text do you want to write. If it's more in the academic environment, maybe Jenny is a good choice. If it's more you want to structure something, you want to structure your text, maybe Stanford University Storm is very powerful. And if you just do copywriting, for example, for social media or blog posts, I think one of those tools here is very powerful and helpful. Coming now to the comprehensive virtual research assistants, this is how I called it. And I found out that everything I showed you before, like text comprehension, text production, and text literature research, all of these capabilities and functionalities, they are in the tools you see here combined, right? So they are like a Swiss Army knife. So this means that you don't need to download the 3 other tools or 4 other tools. You just download or use one of those tools. Most of them are like, you can access it in the browser. And then you have already the other functionalities included. I have to say that, of course, some of the functionalities are not exactly the same. But as I said, if you want to have a good starting point and you want to have a lot of different functionalities in one tool, I would recommend definitely to have a look here. And for the comprehensive virtual research assistants, there is one very famous tool at the moment. It's called Iris AI. You can do, as I said, everything what I showed to you before. You can make literature research. You can make a review of the research literature. You can already start to do some data extraction of the literature, make notes, and then summarize topics. And you also have a chatbot functionality to really dig deeper into the research papers or the sources in general, presentations, whatever you are working on. I have to say, this Iris AI, I tried it out, but not too deep, right? So I'm not an expert here, but I know that quite some people are using it. It's quite popular at the moment. So I wanted to include it here, but also want to be transparent that I'm not an expert with this tool. We have then Paper Digest and Skyspace here in the middle. And those tools are basically very similar to Iris AI. But I would, I also know that same what I just said applies for those two tools as well. I had a look into them. I feel that Iris AI is more powerful than these two tools. But basically the functionalities are pretty much the same. You can do literature research. You can do even paper ranking. You can do like keyword filtering. And then you can create different notes which help you then in the research process, or if you create PowerPoint presentations and so on. And then you see on the right side, NotebookLM, and this is basically the tool which we will look into today. And this is a very powerful tool. As I said at the beginning, I'm working with this tool now for quite some time. It's basically from Google Research. It was released a few months ago. And it's, as I said, as well, a research assistant. And you can do also a lot of nice things with it. I don't want to go too much into detail here because we will look at later in the demo into this. But in my opinion, and looking now back on all the other tools and comparing all the other tools and the functionalities, I feel that NotebookLM is by far the most major one, and is by far also the tool which combines most of the other functionalities and capabilities in a most user-friendly way, right? Because it's a tool which really, when you start working with it, you get really fast into a flow, and you get really fast into a good understanding how the system thinks and how you can structure certain aspects. So this is why I say, this is why I picked today NotebookLM for the deep dive. But also from my perspective, I think everybody works differently and everybody has a little bit of a different workflow, and especially when it comes to doing or in the research field. everybody has a different approach, right? So there is a high possibility that in this list are now some tools which are very useful for you and which probably would help you a lot to be more efficient, to be more productive, to create maybe even better results. And the only way how to find this out is really to spend some time looking into these tools. Nearly all the tools I presented today to you, they are free. They have free versions. Some of them, they have then a paid version, yes. But you can try out all of these tools for free. And if you sit down later or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and I will, of course, provide you this presentation, and you will look into some of the tools and you find them useful for yourself and you can leverage them, I would be very happy. And I think then we already have reached the goal of this lecture today. So this is a clear call to action from my side. Try out some tools and try also to work with some of the tools and also try to understand how they fit for your ways of working and for your needs. But for today, as I said, NotebookLM is the choice we are looking in. And before we are having now our deep dive into the tooling, let me quickly give you another very, very good tip. So there, as I said at the beginning, there are a lot of more AI tools out there. There are not only AI tools for education out there, of course, there are a lot of tools for a lot of other industries and other things out there as well. We saw it at the beginning. Gen AI is disrupting every industry. So in every industry, you have this kind of tools, you have this kind of niche tools and so on. What I want to show you here is there are very good websites already where you can search for different tools and different tooling, right? So for example, one of the very famous one is this, there's an AI for that. It's very comprehensive and you can also have a look there later on. If you want to search, for example, for other AI tools for education, or you want to search in general for some AI tools, then there are some niche websites, like, for example, Futurepedia and Future Tools. But the very nice website also here in this context is AI Educator Tools, right? This website is amazing. It also has a lot of more tools than what I just presented. And it also has a lot of tools for fields which I did not touch today, right? So there are like also some tools for AI, and then how can you how can you leverage AI for creating better feedback cycles when you give like a university lecture, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of interesting stuff also on this AI educator tool. So what I want to say, if you're interested to learn more and have a further deep dive into tooling, have a look, especially on this website, but the other ones are useful as well, especially there's an AI for that. So that should really help you then in the future if you are looking for other tools or tools which we did not touch yet. Also, I think it's a field where is a lot of innovation happening. I said it at the beginning. I worked in the beginning of the year with a small startup together, which is now, I gave them some minor advices, but they are now also preparing to release an education tool which has some AI use cases built in. And I mean, if you just look on social media, LinkedIn or X, the speed of innovation and the speed of new tools which are released on a day-to-day basis is at the moment just outrageous. So to have a look on a constant basis on all of these websites definitely can give you an edge. And I think there will be a lot of further great innovation coming in the field of AI tools and education. Having said that, we are coming now to the deep dive for NotebookLM. Before that, I would pause now and look into the round, maybe also into the chat section if there are any questions.
Yes, Andreas, we have one question. That question, how accurate those tools are?
That's a very good question. And I have to say, so all of the tools we saw today, they are based on a large language model, right? So they use, for example, an API and make a call to ChatGPT, or they use Llama 3, or they use Gemini. And we know with large language models, they sometimes hallucinate and they can have a bias. And therefore, they can be not always 100% precise, okay? 100% precise. Therefore, we always need to verify and cross-check everything we produce. Pretty clear, right? And I would also not recommend to just create certain things and then just use it without proofreading. You should always make a cross-check, and you should always see this as a knife or as a tool, right? This is like a workbench, right? This is like something you can use, you can leverage, but it will not replace you, because at the end of the day, you are sitting in the cockpit of the car and you drive the car, and you are just using those tools. So always cross-check.
Yeah, we have one more question. It's asking about the notebook. Is available for free and paid subscription. In your opinion, do you think it's worth it to subscribe?
It's for free. You don't need to pay, and we will have a look into this now. I will also introduce you how to set up an account. And in my opinion, as I said, I'm a heavy user of this since maybe 3 months, and I don't have a subscription, and for me it works perfectly fine. So I don't even know what is included in the subscription. I can imagine that at some point they change it completely to a model where you need to pay, but at the moment I think it's completely fine to use the free version. Then there is another question: checking everything in research is a hell. How can you check every source that you did not read? I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but at the end of the day, you need to do a cross-check, right? And it doesn't mean that if you have a paper that you need to read the full paper, if the paper has 50 pages. Exactly this is where like those tools can help you, because those tools, they will link you directly to the paragraph in the paper where you might have the information you need, right? So you don't need to read the full paper, you just ask, and you will see now with NotebookLM, when we have the demo, I think this also gets then a little bit clearer how this works. So as I just mentioned, we will now continue with the deep dive of NotebookLM. And you can see what I have prepared now. It's basically 5 steps, 5 different use cases, what we will do. First of all, of course, you see it here at the top, getting started with NotebookLM. We will set up an account. After that, we will work very closely with PDF files, with papers, so to say. I will show you what you can do there. After that, we will look into the possibility to create podcasts and audio overview. This is also one of the reasons why this tool went viral over the last weeks and months. Maybe you already have heard of NotebookLM, or you even have worked with it. So there was a time where a lot of podcasts were produced by this tool. So I think that's also something very powerful. We will look into this. And then we will also look into the possibility to analyze YouTube videos or videos in general. And then working with slides at the end, working with PowerPoint slides and what you can get out of slides. So this is basically what we will do now. And I will switch now over to, and I pasted the link of NotebookLM here in the channel, in the chat. So you can all click now on this link. The tool is for free. The only thing what you need is a Google account, or even I think it's now possible to do it with just an email account, right? So basically what you do now, you click the link, and you can then see that a window like this is opening. Now I see it somehow switched to German at my screen. I don't know why this happened. But basically this should look like this, but in English for you. And then you have the possibility here with this button, NotebookLM try out, or try out NotebookLM, something like that. And you press the button. And if you already have an account, it looks like this. I have the account. If not, you need to set up an account, right? It's pretty straightforward. If you have a Google account, you can just log in with your Google account. And if you need to set it up, yeah, I would suggest should we quickly wait until everybody has set it up? Or since this is recorded, I just walk through the demo and then you can look at it later.
Maybe we'll give them like 5 minutes, and then we'll start. Yeah.
Okay, so then we quickly wait, and then everybody please set up an account, and that you see this window here. Perfect. And I just did a cross-check, right? There is no paid version or subscription version at the moment of this. So this is for free, 100%, right? So if you see something where you need to pay, this is probably a scam or not true. Just to make sure.
Andreas, the only thing that is, sorry to interrupt here, because it started as beta, as you know. The only thing that was written by Google that time that you are like the maximum resources that you can do it in this beta thing was 9 resources, if you remember, when they started doing that. 9 resources with limitation of 500,000 word each, I think. That was the edge of the people get maybe the influence that this is why you have subscription, you know.
Yeah, probably good explanation. And I can imagine that at some point they make this a paid version as well, because it's quite powerful. So let's see how this unfolds. So what you see now is basically this welcome window. And before we start to work with the window, I just want to make you aware that, for example, there's at the bottom also this try an example notebook with a more comprehensive tutorial section. I will cover even more than what is here, but there are some niche topics, and there is also this troubleshooting page, which can be useful if you run into problems. So I just wanted to highlight this here, that if you work later with it and you look for questions, you have FAQ, or you have any other problems, this might be a very good source to have a look to troubleshoot. Okay.
I have a question, if you don't mind. Yes. So I tried to open a notebook, and I found that there is a welcome message. Okay, it's far away from the use of notebook, but they mentioned that they are valuing the privacy and they will never use the personal information and so on. And then I read it carefully. So they mentioned that it might not provide accurate information. So how it comes that they are not saving historical navigation and they will improve the product? And I cannot see any how they will improve the accuracy of the notebook, okay, if they are not saving the historical navigation of the users. If you have any idea about it.
So I think this question is related to the question before. So of course you always need to double check everything you create here, and they don't take any responsibilities, because this is also based on a large language model. This is based on Gemini 1.3, which is like the flagship large language model from Google. And there could be, of course, some bias, and there could be some hallucination. And that could be then also lead to some wrong information. So basically it means don't copy everything and take everything for granted to be 100% correct. But it's the same with all of the large language models, right?
But this is very serious in let's say high risk situations like medicine, giving a dose. And it goes back to this same issue of accountability. If you use this, you are accountable for whatever you do. So this is just a tool. I don't think it can replace, because there are issues that the AI cannot address, like teamwork, like the emotions, like the thinking process. This is why I was asking about critical appraisal of the literature. Because I'm a researcher, I'm since 40 years, and I know the most difficult part of the research is not to put the things together or write them. It is to critically appraise what other people did. Is it good or not? And I don't think the computer will be able to do that. I mean, I think this is a good tool. And as you mentioned, it needs a lot of ethics to approve it. It's like you give your paper to someone who improves your English language. That's okay, acceptable. But if you write something, you are accountable for it. This is what my understanding about AI. And the accountability, the issue is the people who develop these programs, people are starting using it. And let's say there is a mistake, who is accountable for it? So please, I mean, I would really maybe use it as a tool, but I would be very careful to say, oh, this is my opinion, if I'm not sure that this is my opinion.
Sorry, I think I understand your question, and correct me. What she's referring, Doctor, what she's referring to, you know, because and that's part of the Google Gemini. that we will not collect the data, we'll keep your privacy, so we will not collect the historical data of your searches, of your questions and other things. So, and they claim at the same time they are improving themselves. So how can they improve themselves if they are not using our data? Like, you know, they are not benefiting from our data. That was the question, and correct me, doctor, if I'm wrong in this.
Yes, this is correct. Yes.
Yeah,
This is good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean, right? It's basically what they say here. NotebookLM never trains on your data and so on. But then they also bear in mind that it's best to avoid submitting any information you wouldn't feel comfortable sharing. So I'm not working for Google, but I can tell, I mean, so I'm probably the wrong person to answer this question. But what I can tell you, of course, I would be always careful with uploading here personal and private data, right? So, but that accounts for all of the large language models. And we saw it in the past with all of the big US companies. There were always critical things, and there were always data. There was always some data used for things where it should not have been used for. So I mean, I see it as you, I see it critical. And I would just say, be careful with what you upload here. But I think if you just upload research paper and you do it for with sources which are public anyway on the internet, I don't see a problem in using it. Yeah. Good. And you know, the good thing about NotebookLM is not that you are writing now your full research paper in this tool, right? So you can still have a Word document open, and this really just helps you to do better and more efficient research. And I think this will be now clear when I do the demo. So you have all of this screen here. And what we do now is we create a notebook, right? A notebook is always kind of a research project. So we click the create button here. And then you see there is a new screen coming up. It says add sources. And you need to understand, for the logic of how does NotebookLM work, it's all about sources. At the end of the day, this is just an empty framework, and you need to put in your sources. You need to put in the information you want to do research about. Otherwise, this doesn't work. And you see what you can do here is you can do an upload of sources like PDF, text file, Markdown, audio. But then, and this is also something very powerful, you can also upload from your Google Drive, and you can also put in website links. You can put in YouTube links, and you can just copy in a normal text. We will try all of this out. But for the first part, I would now like to show you the possibility to feed in like PDFs and other sources and to do research about it, okay? And for that, I have prepared now a paper. And this paper is about a new large language model which was introduced by IBM, by the company I'm working at, right? So, for example, ChatGPT has OpenAI, Google has Gemini, and IBM, my company, we have a model which is called Granite 3.0. And every time there is a new model released, there is also very comprehensive research done. There is a paper, an explanation which data is used for the model. And then there is a lot of explanation about data, privacy, and so on, right? And this research paper, you can also upload another research paper you are currently working on, is now in my notebook. You see, this is now a notebook which was created. I can give this now at the top here a name, right? It says at the moment untitled notebook. I say, for example, now we do research for the Granite 3.0 to make sure to give it some order. And if we click now here into the source, we see that NotebookLM already provides a summary, right? So it analyzes the document we are uploading here and provides a high-level summary. And it also takes out some key topics which are discussed in the paper, right? So very useful. It says, for example, open foundation models. It's about open foundation models. And if I'm, for example, then more interested to learn more about the aspect of open foundation models, I can click this here. And then a new window opens and it says, discuss in this paper open foundation models. And I will get then an answer where NotebookLM goes a little bit into a deep dive and is telling me, here's a discussion about open foundation models based on the provided source. And the nice part here is also that this is not just some random information. you also have always these quotation marks at the bottom here, right? You see, for example, 6, and if I click 6, robust performance, this is coming here from this part. So if I use this now to write a paper, for example, I can then, and I want to talk about the robust performance, I can go directly here in this field of the source and then reread it again, make proof that everything is fine, and then I can quote it, okay? So that is a possibility how to work with a PDF file and to make a further deep dive, okay? Of course, I can add other sources here as well, right? So for example, I just click this plus button at the top. You can add up to 50 different sources. And I could now, for example, also, there was a public announcement by IBM as well about IBM Granite 3.0. I could also just use this as a source, and I can just include here the website link, right? And it says then, for example, for the website link, only the visible text on the website will be imported at this moment. Paid articles are not supported. Okay, I insert it. I have another source here. And if I even want to add other sources, maybe I have another paper, or I have like a PowerPoint presentation about this new release as well, just to show you the diversity. You can upload this here as well, and then you see it also summarizes the PowerPoint presentation, and then it's in there. And I can now start also to do further research through these 3 sources. It's not really just about one paper. You can upload then 10 different papers, which are all probably looking at a similar case, and then do research with the papers, right? And the first point would be, for example, to look again in these key topics. If you produce then something for the key topics, like we did here with the Granite paper, right? We looked into these open foundation models, where we have then here a very comprehensive explanation. So, and I like this, and I want to save this for later. I can click then here on Save to Note. Okay, and then this is saved here. And if I close now NotebookLM and I want to continue my research tomorrow, this is already saved here. Okay, so I don't need to go back again and create this key topic again. I have it here saved, and I can also rename this and say open foundation models in Granite. Okay, so that's very helpful to now make a lot of comments, a lot of notes about this research project here, which is now, for example, about the Granite 3.3 model, 3.0 model. I can also, of course, add like a custom note, right? So, for example, I want to just make sure this is a test, and you see I can write down as much as I want. And if I work with other researchers together or with other people, which is very often the case, I can, for example, also click at the top here at share, and I can send it to you via email, and you can continue to work with it, and you can also access all of the notes. So that's very interesting, and it's really just about selecting different sources about your research project, and then really digging into it through the notes, make comments, ask the right questions, and get a better understanding about the paper and the stuff you are doing research on. Another very powerful approach you can do, for example, is you can click into the sources. So now I'm in the Granite paper again, and this part here is something I really like, the abstract, right? So I can just copy it, and I can edit as a note as well, right? So then, for example, I say abstract, okay? And if there's a graph down below I like, I can just make a note out of it. Of course, I can also then say, for example, if I look into the document and there is a part which is very hard to understand, and there are a lot of technical terms, a lot of jargon, maybe some formula I don't understand, I can help me understand. And this is very powerful. I use this a lot, especially when I read through this papers about large language models. And then the NotebookLM gives me an explanation. So first, they define all of the key terms used, right? So they introduce the key terms used. They make a summary about this part, and then they give an explanation, right? So this really helps if you read something in a paper or in a presentation and you maybe don't have the full understanding of the context to create a better understanding. And then, of course, you can save this as a note again, and you can have it. You can look at it later, right? So also very powerful. And also another possibility to work with PDFs and in general sources is this notebook guide here at the bottom on the right side. Also very useful. You can open it, and then you can also, for example, create an FAQ based on the sources you included. You can create a study guide, a table of content, timeline, or a briefing doc. Study guide, also very interesting. If you have maybe, for example, 5, 6, 7 papers, or you have also some other sources, maybe some TED talk or some conference talks, like video sources, doesn't matter. You upload everything and you want to learn about this topic, you create a study guide, and it already will tell you what to consider, will give you some questions you need to, you should answer to yourself to get a better understanding. So also very helpful to give you some guidelines how to get deeper and learn more about certain topics, okay? And then you see, so this is now a study guide, short answer quiz, answer the following questions. Yeah, so really comprehensive essay questions, glossary of key terms. Yeah, very, very comprehensive. And of course, I can then save this as a note again. And then in the future, if I want to look back into this, I can open up all the notes and I have exactly the same status of my research, always accessible in one tool. Okay, so that is for the PDF research. As I said, you can upload 50 different sources here, and you can make, I think, 1,000 notes here, so more than enough. And this also is enough for not for every research project, I would say. And then if you need more, you can just create a new notebook. So not a problem at all. You can also, of course, if this is a new field and you need to give a presentation about it, you need to go to a conference, or you want to prepare in another way. Of course, you have this chat window here at the bottom, and then you can also ask, for example, please create a presentation about LLMs and Granite 3.0, and then it will give you a very good outline how you could structure your presentation. Let's quickly wait. It's a bit slow. So now this takes a little bit longer because NotebookLM is going through all of the sources, right? So the more sources you upload here, the longer it takes. If you upload, for example, also like YouTube videos, which are quite comprehensive, it takes even longer. And you have now, for example, for the presentation about large language models and Granite 3.0, a first draft, a first timeline based on the sources you have here, right? First introduce large language models, then open foundation models, then introduce Granite, the key features. And this is already a very good starting point, evaluation, performance, and the conclusion. So you could now probably don't copy paste it completely, but definitely something you can start then working on, and you don't need to start working from zero. You already have a boilerplate you can work on. Okay. And of course, if this is now too comprehensive for you, or you want to have it shorter, you can then also play a little bit and say, please make it shorter. I mean, that's pretty much like need to adjust it via natural language here at the bottom. But I think that's also clear then. Yeah, it's not really shorter, I would say. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But then you can say make it in 5 slides, or make it even shorter. So normally this then works, right? So you can play around a little bit. Well, and you could also ask, for example, if you give a lecture to students and you want to have an exam at the end of the year, you can upload all of the presentations and all of the study material here, and then ask NotebookLM to create an exam, a multiple choice test, or something in that direction. And you already have also a very good starting point for a potential exam or a final test. Okay, so this is really about it's really about uploading different sources and then creating this different notes, and then really digging into different papers. You can also then of course, just look at the summary. They are most of the times very good. And if you see the summary, well, it's going in the right direction. You can continue with those questions or with a notebook guide. And also there is this possibility to create a podcast or an audio overview out of this. But we come to this in a second when we look into another paper. Okay. And if I'm now good with this, and I say, okay, this already helped me now to understand my Granite 3.0. I have the notes here, right? I have a first good understanding. I can continue my research later. We can click then out here, back at the NotebookLM, and we see that this research project here is saved, okay, for later. So tomorrow I want to continue. I just click in, and then I have all the notes ready, and I can continue my research. I can upload more sources, and so on, right? So that is like the first use case. It's about creating a research project and playing around with PDFs and papers and trying to understand papers better and making notes about different papers. The next part is generating audio overviews. I already said it. This is one of the most powerful tools and most powerful use cases for NotebookLM. And for that part, we upload again. I prepared another file. We go on choose file, and I upload this paper. Its attention is all you need. This is a very famous paper in computer science because basically this introduces the transformer architecture. And the transformer architecture is the architecture which is the baseline for all large language models we are using today, right? So for example, ChatGPT or also Gemini, what you see here, would not be possible without this architecture. So this is really like a quantum leap in computer science. But this paper is a little bit technical, right? And to understand this paper, you need to have a very deep understanding about maybe certain aspects in computer science. And if you now want to get a better understanding of this paper, also for a person who maybe comes from another field, another category, or you have a good understanding and you just want to have it in an audio format, you can go here to this audio overview tab, okay? And then you can click here on customize, and you see that you can now give specific aspects which this podcast, which this audio overview should consider. So for example, I say now, talk about the impact of the paper for large language models and AI. And then I can say, make it for a non-technical audience, because I want to make sure that everybody understands it. And I click on generate. And then this takes a few minutes. And I have prepared this because sometimes it takes too much time to wait. And I have prepared it here. It's basically exactly the same. You see, academic paper attention is all you need. I just uploaded it. And you can then click here on play.
All right, so everyone's talking about the...
And then you will hear now a podcast, two people talking, having a conversation about the paper or about the sources you are uploading here in the way you were telling them. So I told them non-technical, and they should talk about large language models and the transformer architecture. So let's have a look what they are saying.
All right, so everyone's talking about these large language models, right? Things like ChatGPT. But have you ever wondered how they actually work?
It really is fascinating, isn't it?
It is. So today we're going to take a deep dive into the world of transformers.
Ah, yes. Transformers.
They're the tech behind it all. Basically the secret ingredient that revolutionized how we process language.
I like that, secret ingredient. It all really started with this research paper, you know?
I do.
Attention is all you need.
You could hear it, right? So basically what we have here is now, they create now a podcast for you and you can listen to this podcast. This could be also very useful. For example, you have a lot of research papers and you are doing some other work. For example, you want to go to do some sports, you want to go to the gym and you don't have time to read, or you drive with the car somewhere. So you can just create these audio overviews And then they will have this conversation about specific papers, about specific topics, and you can just listen to it. And from my experience, this works pretty well. The conversations are most of the time spot on, and you also have the possibility here to share this then with other people. So if you work on a similar research project, for example, you can also download it, right? And you can also change the playback speed. So this is very powerful, and I think this is also one of the reasons why NotebookLM went viral over the last months and weeks. And I just want to show you one crazy example. So there is from Andreas 𝗲𝗲𝘄𝘆𝘀. He's a very famous AI researcher as well. He worked as director of AI at Tesla, and he's one of the founding member actually of OpenAI. And he created a podcast within 2 hours with NotebookLM, right? So basically he created 10 episodes. And what he did is he researched cool topics using ChatGPT, Claude, Google. He linked then the notebook to Notebook the Wikipedia entry of each topic. And then he generated, based on the Wikipedia entry, a podcast audio. And you can even listen to his podcast when you go on Spotify. I opened this for you. It's called Histories of Mysteries. And it's talking now about, for example, in Turkey, in Anatolia, about the 𝗞𝗲𝘆 𝗧𝗸𝗲𝘄𝘆𝘆, which is one of the oldest known megalithical sites, right? Or like about other topics. And he created this in like 2 hours, right? So very powerful. And it's a very engaging podcast format you can create here. And of course, also especially also for academic papers and academic research, this is very powerful. And there is currently even another project coming out of NotebookLM, and this is called 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝘀. I don't know if you have heard about it. And what you can do here is, the use case here is only for research papers, and it makes it even smaller, right? At the moment, there is a waiting list, so you need to apply to get accepted to the waiting list. So not easy to get in, I guess. I tried it. I tried to apply a few weeks ago. I'm still not. I can still not use it. But what you can do there is also upload research papers, and then you see 4 minutes, 8 minutes, 4 minutes. It gives you a very high level podcast about a research paper, and is then discussing the research paper. So if I click, for example, here in Attention is All You Need, this is just the paper I uploaded in the other, in the notebook I just created. I should also be able to access it. Maybe I need to reload the website. Yeah, it's still in the beta, but also worth to have a look here. And yeah, from my perspective, if you do, for example, research and you have 10, 15 papers and you need to read all of these 10, 15 papers, and these papers are maybe somewhere between 20 to 30 pages, this will take you a lot of time. And very often you start to read, for example, a paper, and after 3 or 4 pages, you think like, wow, this is a waste of time. This doesn't help me at all. So what you could do now is, for example, you take all of these papers and you create a notebook here, and then you upload the paper, and then you create a podcast about it, right? And then you listen just to the podcast. And these podcasts are like around 10 minutes. So you just spend 10 minutes and you listen for maybe 60 minutes to 10 minutes each, one of the podcasts. You have already a good understanding about what is going on in the 6 papers. Of course, if you like a paper or you think, wow, this content is good, this helps me, you need to go back into the paper and probably reread the paper. But it probably can already help you to shrink down those 15, 20 papers where you think at the beginning they are interesting into 5. So you can be more efficient because you don't need to read all the papers. You can create this podcast, which helps you to get a high level understanding and also like a good understanding if this is from interest, what is written about in the paper, right? So I think it's very powerful. I use this a lot also for YouTube videos, for large interviews where I'm interested in just creating this audio overview. And then I drive somewhere, I go somewhere, and I listen to the podcast. And normally you get a very good understanding and you save a lot of time. Yeah, so basically this is then I rename now the notebook again, creating audio overview. So this is the second use case, what you can do with NotebookLM. And we go out now again in this high-level overview, and we come now to the number 3 use case, which is chatting with YouTube videos or videos in general. So very often there are like interesting YouTube videos from maybe conferences, some other talks, maybe some documentaries, where you also want to do some research or dig deeper in, okay? So for that reason, I create again a new notebook, and I have prepared a YouTube video here, which I found very interesting. This is about the former CTO from OpenAI. Her name is Mira Murati, and she left the company. And there are a lot of people who left the company of OpenAI. And I was interested a few weeks ago, hey, why is everybody leaving the company? What is the strategy of the company? Are there some problems, like people don't agree on certain aspects? So I was starting to do some research on the OpenAI strategy and how they position themselves. I found this interview, but I did not have the time to look the whole interview. And what I basically did, or what you can do, is you just copy paste the YouTube URL, and you see basically what is happening now is a text transcript from the YouTube video. So if there are like some graphic or some technical descriptions, it will not be included here in NotebookLM, right? This as a disclaimer. It's really just a text transcript about what the people are talking. And you see that only public YouTube videos are supported, and maybe recently uploaded videos may not be available to import. This is very important, because if you try this out, you will see that maybe some videos, they are like having a red line, or there is like this red arrow, and this is not, it says it's not possible to upload. And this is then probably one of the reasons, right? Recently uploaded, or maybe it's not public, okay? And then you can insert the YouTube video. And what is happening now, you see a full transcript of the whole video, okay? From A to Z, and this is, as I said, an interview. And I can now, again, play around with the content here, right? For example, hey, she's saying something here, which I found very interesting. I can then copy this, for example, and then I can create a note again. I can then rename the note, and I can say, interesting quote. Okay, so this is the same. I don't want to go too much into detail. I showed you before what you can do now with the text here. Well, we should also rename this. This is then chatting with YouTube videos, or let's call it researching with YouTube videos. Always good to rename this first. Yeah, basically, I can then also make, for example, summarizing the key highlights. For example, I can ask, what are the 5 key highlights from this interview? And then I don't need to listen to the whole interview, and NotebookLM is already telling me what is going on there, right? And if I found something interesting, I might maybe go back to listen to the interview. But if this is not so interesting for me, it already helps me to get a high-level good information. So it says OpenAI's mission and approach to AI development, impact of ChatGPT and the future of search, challenges and limitations of AI, etc. And then also, of course, I can save this as a note again. I can say then, for example, 5 key takeaways. And I have this then saved here. And then I can also, for example, I see now here in the key topics, OpenAI strategy. So that was the reason why I came across the video. I click now on OpenAI strategy, and then I will also get a transcript about what is Mira saying about the strategy of the company and where they're heading. And you see, she's talking about blitz scaling, that they push new features and update for their tooling very fast into the market. She's talking about safety and control, and so on. So already very good understanding what she's talking about when it comes to their strategy. And I can then use this, of course, and further save it as a note again, or then further say, for example, hey, this is very interesting to me. this OpenAI strategy part, why not make a blog post, for example, about it, or like a social media post for my for other people? So I can say, for example, create a blog post, engaging blog post out of it, right? So, and then I can also ask to create a PowerPoint slide for a lecture I'm giving about the strategy of OpenAI. There's a lot of if this is part of a lecture and I want to write a test about, for example, the strategy of the company, I could also ask now again for questions regarding a multiple choice test or regarding in general an exam. And you see, for example, here this blog post, Decoding OpenAI, a strategy forged in blitzscaling and ethical tightropes. Okay, and then he's telling me here in this article about the key highlights of the OpenAI strategy, basically. And I could use this now if I would like to post something about this on my Medium, on my LinkedIn, on my X or whatsoever, or if I want to do something else with it. You know, you also have these question marks here. I can click in. So, for example, if you write a paper about business strategies of leading companies, you could also now use this, what you see here, right? What she just said, this transcript, and include it into your academic research, right? So plenty of possibilities. And it's really powerful because you can also transcript complete YouTube videos and chat with those YouTube videos. And of course, I mean, if I want to do more research on OpenAI strategy, I can include now other links. So maybe Sam Altman gave an interview talking about it. So I include a link when he was giving a press conference. Maybe I can also include some official paper, some official document. And NotebookLM will really help me to dive into all of the different sources and get the best possible answer out for me, but always, of course, with source links, right? So it's not inventing anything new. It's really giving you the direct source. It's really just quoting, for example, this interview, and it's just rephrasing it in another way. So I think that's very powerful. And that also is a little bit what we had before in this discussion. Can you just use what is created here? No, you should, of course, cross-check it. But the beauty of this tool is that you always have these quotation marks here, right? This is not just some random stuff which is made up by some AI. This is really coming always from the sources here, okay? So that is why I think it's very powerful. And you can then just go back into the sources to verify that this information is not some made up stuff. And if you have the verification, you can include it then, for example, into your research. Okay, so that is basically the researching YouTube videos. And the last part I want to show you, the last use case, is working with PowerPoint slides, which is also something very powerful what you can do with NotebookLM. So therefore, we go back again to our NotebookLM overview. We create again a new notebook, and this time we click on Google Slides. And I have uploaded a presentation here. This is about RAG use cases. RAG stands for Retrieval Augment Generation. And basically what RAG does, it is leveraging a large language model and is feeding in up-to-date data via a vector database. And it makes your large language model more efficient, to describe this on a very high level, okay? It's just an approach to make large language models adjustable on certain specific use cases where you have a need. Of course, you can upload other presentations. It doesn't matter. I just use this because there are like some graphs here, which are maybe for a person who's not familiar with it, are a little bit confusing. And I want to show you what you can do now here. So I upload the slides. You see, these are the slides here, okay? And I have this slide here. This is like the description of a typical RAG process, okay? So for example, if you're not familiar with RAG, maybe this is a little bit confusing, okay? There are some explanation before what is meant by this, but maybe you get this slide and you want to have a better understanding. So you can ask, for example, please explain this for me in a way that I understand it, right? Or if you are giving a lecture at a university and these are your slides you are presenting and you want to create again an exam at the end of the year, at the end of the day, you can also then say, for example, can you create a multiple choice exam for slide 7, right? So this is slide 7. And I create now an exam. Of course, this is not a perfect exam and you will not copy paste it directly and use it later, but this already gives you a very good starting point and the questions are very good, right? So for example, what is the output of the search and retrieval stage of the REC process, right? And then it even gives you 3 other examples which are wrong. So you don't need to sit down and think about stuff or make up stuff. I think that also takes sometimes a lot of time. You already have this, right? So and this is, as I said, a starting point. You can now copy this and adjust it a little bit and maybe build up an exam or a final a test out of this, okay? That would be a use case. Of course, you can ask now, explain to me this PowerPoint slide. You can also say, for example, please improve the slide number 7 that it is better understandable. And then, of course, NotebookLM will also explain to me certain aspects which should be here more precise, maybe better explained, right? It says, for example, to improve slide 7 for better understanding, consider the following suggestions. More descriptive title, right? So this title is very generic, typical REC process. So it says the REC loop, iterative REC process. And then he's telling me other stuff, visual distinction, show the feedback loop, etc. It's probably not everything something to consider, but it probably definitely will help you to improve and think about and iterate on the presentation and make it even a little bit better, right? It's just something you can play around a little bit and see, for example, also with the presentations, what to improve or what else can I get out of the what else can I get out of the PowerPoint. And then, of course, you can also say if this is, for example, the overall presentation for your lecture, you can then, of course, for example, just say create an overall exam for the whole slide deck. And it will also come up with a lot of very good questions, which you can then build up your exam, which you then can use later, and you don't need to sit down and on a white paper and think about everything from scratch, right? So also very powerful, and probably takes a little bit longer because it looks into the whole document. But you see, it tells me now multiple choice exam. So if I don't want to have a multiple choice exam, I should ask for that probably. But what are 2 common issues associated with large language models? What is the primary purpose of retrieval augmented generation? So very helpful. I use this for creating an exam actually in that way. And it definitely saved me a lot of time. And as I said, you can also use it for a lot of other stuff. Yeah. That's basically then the last use case, working with slides, right? And of course, as I said, you can upload as many PowerPoint presentations as you want here. Just keep in mind, the more sources you upload here and the more comprehensive this gets, the more time it needs to generate an output, right? So maybe you need to wait for a few more seconds or even a minute or 2. But that's how it works, right? And then, of course, you can save this again as a note. And you can say, for example, exam. And you have this later. Maybe you want to look at this at the end of the year again to really see if this makes sense. And you can just iterate and work with it, right? So going back again to the overview. And these are the 4 use cases I wanted to show to you. Probably you can do some other stuff as well with it, but I think these are really the main use cases. So we have created a research project about the Granite 3.0 model, where we have a lot of notes now, where we can then dive in later and continue our research. We have also created a audio overview, a podcast about a very famous AI paper, Attention is All You Need, which we could listen now and maybe get a better understanding about what is in the paper, right? So we could also here add even more paper or create a podcast about something else. We then have, of course, also created this kind of like first approach understanding about OpenAI strategy by analyzing an interview from the former CTO of OpenAI. So we could now further chat with this YouTube video, include even more YouTube videos or other sources to finalize and make this even more better, this whole overall OpenAI strategy understanding. And then we also have created or had a look how to work with PowerPoint slides, how to improve PowerPoint slides, and how to create, for example, a final exam out of PowerPoint slides. Having said that, yeah?
Yes, there's one question related to the last case, which is, I think it's about, can you convert the BBT to set into audio, like making a podcast, you know, from that, PowerPoint slides?
To the PowerPoint slide or to the podcast?
No, you can make a PowerPoint, you can make a podcast out of a PowerPoint, like what you did for an article, but you are doing it for, yes. Yeah, I just want to, if you can highlight one thing, if you use, I think you use that, you are an expert in this. Summarized as a table is one of the greatest features as well. Like when you have searching things and you have like, different resources, as you know, sometimes you want a very brief summary or you have different measures. If you can just highlight that point where you can click summarize as a table, it's really great to have a table as a summary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's there. If you just open anything and you want to summarize the table, when you click, you can find summarize as a table, which is really very nice as well. This is one of the features that I like as well in the NotebookLM.
So you mean, for example, if I go here?
Yeah, if you open here, and then you can have an option summarize as a table.
I copy this here, for example.
Right-click.
And then?
Actually, yes, try to right-click. Do you have summarize as a table? It should summarize as a note. But if you search for a couple of things, you tend to get into like a group of studies. It needs more than one paper. You have a related paper to each other, let's say, and you have measures and other things like a comparative studies in those papers. Yeah. Sometimes you want to find a summary out of all those papers as a table. And that's another case as well. I want to mention, I think the people will like to explore, so we will not mention everything. They will explore more on this, but it's just a very good option to explore as well, summarize as a table from the NotebookLM.
So Mohammed, you mean I upload here 10 papers? And then there is
a 9, whatever, then you ask a question. You will have a summary, and you can ask that summary to be written as a table. That's the idea, Andreas. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. So, but that sounds very good if you do literature research and you want to compare different papers against each other, right?
Yes, like that.
Yeah.
It's very nice as well. There was one question about, is it actually for discovering, plagiarism, cheating? Can I use the NotebookLM for that?
For what? Say it again, sorry.
For detected cheating, for example, or
I'm not sure if I fully understand the question.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
If students do research papers and I want to discover whether they cheated and plagiarism and the sources they get the papers from.
Yeah.
Since this tool gives me the sources, will it give me the original source from which the student copied things, or the sources will only be the student's paper?
I don't know. I did not have this case. I think you need to try this out to find it out. But I think my opinion with all of this, so they are, for example, these AI detectors where you then want to analyze if somebody used, for example, ChatGPT or some other large language models and so on. My personal view is that all of this doesn't work, because there is a recent study, for example, I think it's from Bloomberg or Forbes, where they analyzed 500 papers, and they were all the papers, they were written long before ChatGPT was invented, and the AI detectors, they always tagged around 2 to 3% of these papers as AI generated. But it's not true, because they are written before the uprise of large language models, right? And also, if you include, for example, the Declaration of Independence of the United States, which was written in the 17th century, all of these detectors are also flagging it as AI generated. So in my personal view, that all of these tools, they are probably not working.
Thank you.
Is it Dr. Hassan? Sorry, yes. You know, there are a couple of tools using AI for detecting plagiarism. Actually, I tested the four most well-known of them. I might share it with you if you are interested to test it on your own, to be honest, because I will tell you something. Those are the best tools that I tested, which is can detect to the extent if you try to mimic, it will say 2% from that author as well, which is really, I find it useful for research as well. And for specific tool. That's not related to the NotebookLM. NotebookLM is morely to build a study guide relating the things and doing the research and give you the citation. But detecting plagiarism, actually there are dedicated tools for this, and I can share 4 of them with you if you remind me.
Yeah, please.
That would be very nice. Thank you.
And just to sum this up, right? So you asked me if I can create now a podcast about this PowerPoint presentation.
Ever get that sinking feeling when you ask an AI a question and it spits out an answer that's just plain wrong?
Oh, yeah.
It's like your GPS confidently steer you into a lake.
Yeah.
So you see, this was also possible to create. So I think this podcast feature is very cool. And if you do research and you have a lot of different sources and you want to, I mean, there are different type of people. Some people, they learn very well when they listen. I think I'm that kind of person. So if I use this podcast feature and I go for a walk or for a run and I listen to that kind of stuff, it really, really helps me to digest information. And it also, I think it's also very useful, because if you read the whole day, it's kind of boring. But if you have, for example, some other input, like input via a podcast, it can help also to change a little bit your learning environment, your research environment, and also make you then more efficient in giving you some other new impetus, right? And having said that, also looking at the time, I think we are now coming to an end.
Andreas, I really appreciate the workshop that you conducted. Honestly, it was very informative, and to me, I haven't used NotebookLM, and I think some of my colleagues as well. So you did it in the perfect way. We really appreciate that. And I think if we need to talk about the ethics in AI, we will never stop. So that's a big, I would say, debate. One of our colleagues, he did mention nowadays they start to use watermarking to preserve, I would say, the right of either a software, text, or whatever. But it's still, I think, is not implemented in any of the AI tools, because even for the tools to detect the cheating, if the text is generated by AI or not generated by AI, that one is still, it's not like accurate. So many examples, they have been shown that you write a text by yourself and they detect it as AI generated, or vice versa. So I think that's I think it's I would say a discussion. It will come, I would say, to the spot more and more, because with the AI, it becomes really available to all domains, as you mentioned. But since it came to the end, I really would like to appreciate and thank you on behalf of my colleagues here in the center, and also on behalf of my colleagues at the United Arab Emirates University. I think we should collaborate more as a center and IBM. We are trying now to build AI unit in education here in our university. So I think later we're gonna contact you maybe for more seeking the collaboration. Thank you so much, Andreas. We wish you a nice day.
Thank you very much.